My girlfriend's extreme jealousy ruined my life. I left her, but she wouldn't let go. 1 year later, I'm thriving and she's in therapy. I never thought I'd be in this situation, but here I am, pouring my heart out to strangers on the internet. My name is Donald, I'm 29, and I feel like I'm drowning in a sea of confusion, guilt, and fear. It all started 5 years ago when I met Samantha at the Daily Grind, a cozy little coffee shop tucked away in a corner of our bustling city. I remember that day like it was yesterday. I was running late for work, my shirt was wrinkled, and I had forgotten to shave. As I rushed to grab my usual Americano, I quite literally bumped into Samantha. Coffee spilled everywhere, and I was mortified. But instead of getting angry, she laughed it off, helping me clean up the mess. Her laughter was infectious, her smile radiant, and in that moment, I felt like the luckiest guy in the world. We started talking, and before I knew it, an hour had passed. I was definitely late for work, but I didn't care. Samantha was beautiful, charming, and seemed to be everything I ever wanted in a partner. We exchanged numbers, and within a few days, we were texting constantly. Our first official date was at a local art gallery, where we spent hours discussing the paintings and sculptures, sharing our interpretations and laughing at each other's jokes. As we got to know each other better, I learned that Samantha had a troubled past. She came from a broken home, with parents who divorced when she was young. Her father was largely absent, and her mother struggled with alcoholism. Samantha had to grow up fast, often taking care of her younger siblings. This background, she explained, made it hard for her to trust people fully. Despite her past, or perhaps because of it, Samantha was incredibly attentive and caring. She always remembered little details about my life, surprised me with thoughtful gifts, and made me feel special in ways no one else ever had. We shared a love for indie rock bands, spent weekends binge-watching obscure sci-fi series, and even started learning French together, dreaming of a romantic trip to Paris. Our relationship progressed quickly, and within 6 months, we were practically living together. My apartment became our haven, filled with Samantha's artwork. She was an aspiring painter, and the sound of our laughter. My friends and family adored her, often commenting on how she had brought me out of my shell. I had always been somewhat introverted, but with Samantha, I felt more confident and outgoing. However, as time went on, I started noticing some red flags that I chose to ignore because I was so in love with her. The first incident happened about a year into our relationship. We were at a friend's birthday party, and I was catching up with an old college friend, Phoebe. Samantha had met Phoebe before and knew we were just friends, but something about our interaction that night set her off. Later that evening, Samantha accused me of flirting with Phoebe. I was shocked and tried to explain that we were just talking, but Samantha wouldn't hear it. She cried, saying she couldn't bear the thought of losing me, that Phoebe was prettier and smarter than her. I spent hours reassuring her, feeling guilty for causing her pain, even though I knew I hadn't done anything wrong. From that point on, Samantha's jealousy began to manifest more frequently. She would question me about my female coworkers, get upset if I liked another woman's social media post, and even started dropping by my office unexpectedly. To keep the peace, I gradually started distancing myself from my female friends and colleagues, thinking it would make Samantha happy. But her jealousy didn't stop there. About 2 years into our relationship, I noticed that Samantha always seemed to know where I was, even when I hadn't told her my plans. One day, my brother borrowed my phone to make a call and noticed a strange app he didn't recognize. It turned out to be a tracking app that Samantha had installed without my knowledge. When I confronted Samantha about it, she broke down in tears, claiming she had trust issues from past relationships. She told me about an ex-boyfriend who had cheated on her repeatedly, leaving her with deep-seated insecurities. Samantha promised to delete the app and work on her trust issues, and I believed her. I loved her so much that I was willing to forgive almost anything. As our relationship progressed, Samantha's controlling behavior worsened. She started having opinions about everything in my life, from what I wore to work to who I hung out with on weekends. If I expressed any disagreement or stood up for myself, she would either threaten to harm herself or accuse me of not loving her enough. It was emotionally exhausting, but I felt trapped because I truly believed I couldn't live without her. The breaking point came last month when my cousin Karen came to visit for a weekend. Karen and I had always been close, almost like siblings. She was in town for a job interview and needed a place to crash. Samantha knew about the visit and had even met Karen before at a family gathering, but that didn't stop her from jumping to conclusions. When Samantha found a strand of long blonde hair on our couch, which obviously belonged to Karen, she completely lost it. She stormed into our apartment, screaming and throwing things. She called me a cheater, a liar, and every other horrible name you can imagine. She even threatened to call the police and accuse me of assault. I was shocked and terrified by her behavior. In that moment, as I watched the woman I loved turn into someone I barely recognized, I realized how toxic our relationship had become. I managed to calm Samantha down enough to explain the situation, but the damage was done. I knew I couldn't continue living like this, constantly walking on eggshells and sacrificing my own happiness and mental well-being. The next day, while Samantha was at work, I packed up my belongings and moved out of our shared apartment. I left her a note explaining why I was leaving and that I needed space to think about our relationship. It's been 3 weeks since I moved out, and Samantha has been bombarding me with calls, texts, and emails. She alternates between begging me to come back, promising to change, and threatening to ruin my life if I don't return. I've blocked her on all social media platforms, but she keeps finding ways to contact me. She's even shown up at my workplace twice, causing a scene that almost got me fired. I feel lost and confused. A part of me still loves Samantha and wants to believe that she can change. I remember the good times we had, our impromptu road trips, the way she would leave little love notes around the apartment, how she nursed me back to health when I had the flu. But another part of me knows that this relationship is toxic and unhealthy. I'm afraid of what she might do if I officially end things, but I also know I can't go back to living under her control. My friends and family have been supportive, but they don't fully understand the complexity of the situation. They see Samantha as the fun, charming woman they met at parties and family gatherings, not the jealous, controlling person she became behind closed doors. I feel like I'm living a double life, trying to maintain a facade of normalcy while dealing with constant anxiety and fear. I'm writing this post hoping to get some unbiased advice on how to handle this situation. How do I safely end this relationship once and for all? How can I protect myself from Samantha's potential retaliation? And most importantly, how do I start rebuilding my life and my self-esteem after years of emotional manipulation? Any advice would be greatly appreciated. I feel like I'm drowning, and I don't know how to save myself. Update 1: It's been 2 months since my original post, and I wanted to give you all an update on my situation. First of all, I want to thank everyone who took the time to read my story and offer advice. Your support and encouragement gave me the strength to take some crucial steps towards reclaiming my life. Following the advice of many commenters, I decided to take legal action to protect myself from Samantha's harassment. It wasn't an easy decision to make. The thought of potentially seeing Samantha in court, of having to recount all the painful details of our relationship, made me physically ill. But I knew it was necessary for my safety and peace of mind. I contacted a lawyer who specializes in domestic abuse cases. Her name is Maria, and from our first meeting, I felt like I could trust her. She listened to my story without judgment and explained my options clearly. With her guidance, we decided to file for a restraining order against Samantha. The process of preparing for the court hearing was emotionally draining. I had to go through old text messages, emails, and even my own journal entries to document Samantha's behavior. Reading through everything brought back a lot of painful memories, and there were nights when I couldn't sleep, haunted by the realization of how much I had endured. The day of the court hearing was intense. Samantha showed up with her own lawyer, and seeing her again after weeks apart was harder than I expected. A part of me still cared for her, still wanted to protect her, even as I knew I needed to protect myself. Samantha's lawyer tried to paint her as the victim, claiming that I was the one who had been emotionally abusive and that Samantha was just trying to save our relationship. Fortunately, I had documented much of Samantha's behavior over the years. My lawyer presented evidence including text messages where Samantha threatened to harm herself if I didn't comply with her demands, emails where she berated me for speaking to female colleagues, and even recordings of some of her more extreme outbursts. We also had statements from friends and coworkers who had witnessed Samantha's behavior firsthand. After hearing both sides, the judge granted me a temporary restraining order. It prohibits Samantha from contacting me or coming near my home or workplace. While this is a relief, I know it's just a piece of paper and won't necessarily stop Samantha if she's determined enough. I still find myself looking over my shoulder, half expecting to see her wherever I go. In the weeks following the court hearing, things have been relatively quiet. Samantha seems to have backed off, at least for now. However, the anxiety lingers. I've changed my routines, switched up my usual hangout spots, and even considered moving to a new apartment just to feel safer. It's exhausting, constantly being on guard, but I'm trying to take it one day at a time. On a more positive note, I've started reconnecting with friends I had neglected during my relationship with Samantha. It's been eye-opening to hear their perspectives on how much I had changed over the years. My best friend, Mark, told me that he had been worried about me for a long time but didn't know how to bring it up without pushing me away. We've been spending a lot of time together lately, often just hanging out at his place watching sports or playing video games like we used to. It feels good to have that support system back. I've also been focusing on my career, which had taken a backseat during my relationship with Samantha. I realized how much I had let my professional ambitions slide, always putting Samantha's needs and demands first. Now, I've been putting in extra hours at work, taking on new projects, and even signed up for some online courses to improve my skills. My boss has noticed the change and hinted at a possible promotion in the near future. It's exciting to feel passionate about my work again. Despite these positive changes, I still struggle with feelings of guilt and self-doubt. There are moments when I miss Samantha and the good times we shared. I find myself wondering if I made the right decision, if I should have tried harder to make things work. My sister, Lisa, has been a rock through all of this. She reminds me of how unhappy and stressed I was in the relationship and encourages me to stay strong. Sometimes, I need that reminder of why I left. One unexpected development has been the reaction of Samantha's family. Her younger brother, Alex, reached out to me last week. I was hesitant to respond at first, worried that it might be a ploy orchestrated by Samantha. But when we finally talked, Alex apologized for not intervening sooner. He shared that Samantha had exhibited similar controlling behaviors in her past relationships, something I hadn't known before. He also mentioned that their parents had always enabled her behavior, making excuses for her actions instead of addressing the underlying issues. This conversation with Alex gave me a new perspective on Samantha's behavior. While it doesn't excuse what she did, it helps me understand the complex factors that contributed to our toxic relationship. It's a reminder that healing isn't just about moving on from Samantha, but also about understanding the patterns that led me to stay in an unhealthy relationship for so long. As I navigate this new chapter of my life, I'm trying to focus on healing and self-improvement. I've started journaling to process my emotions, finding it helpful to get my thoughts out on paper. I've also been hitting the gym regularly, using physical exercise as a way to work off stress and rebuild my self-confidence. It's a slow process, and there are still days when I feel overwhelmed by everything that's happened. But I can feel myself getting stronger every day. I'm learning to trust my instincts again, to set boundaries, and to prioritize my own well-being. I still have a long way to go, but I'm cautiously optimistic about the future. Thank you all again for your support and advice. It's made a world of difference knowing that I'm not alone in this struggle. I'll keep you updated on any significant developments. Update 2: It's been 6 months since my last update, and a lot has happened. I want to thank everyone who has continued to offer support and advice throughout this journey. Your words have been a source of strength during some really tough times. Shortly after my last update, Samantha violated the restraining order. It was a Friday night, and I had just gotten home from work. I was looking forward to a quiet evening in, maybe ordering some takeout and watching a movie. But around 10 p.m., there was a loud banging on my door. It was Samantha, clearly intoxicated and emotional. For a moment, I froze, unsure of what to do. Samantha alternated between crying and screaming, begging me to take her back and threatening to hurt herself if I didn't. It was like being thrown back in time to the worst moments of our relationship. My heart was racing, and I felt that old, familiar panic rising in my chest. But then I remembered all the progress I'd made, all the support I'd received from this community and my loved ones. I didn't open the door. Instead, I called the police, who arrived quickly and took Samantha into custody. Watching her being led away in handcuffs was one of the hardest things I've ever experienced. Despite everything, a part of me still cared for her and hated seeing her in that state. This incident led to Samantha being charged with violating the restraining order. She was sentenced to mandatory counseling and community service. While I felt relieved that she was facing consequences for her actions, a part of me also felt guilty for ruining her life, as she put it in a letter her lawyer sent me. It's taken a lot of work in therapy to remind myself that I'm not responsible for Samantha's actions or their consequences. In the aftermath of this incident, I decided to take a leave of absence from work and spend some time with my parents in my hometown. Being away from the city and all the reminders of my life with Samantha was exactly what I needed. My childhood home, with its familiar sights and smells, became a sanctuary. My parents were incredibly supportive, giving me space when I needed it but also making sure I didn't isolate myself completely. During my time away, I received an unexpected visit from Samantha's sister, Emily. Unlike Samantha's brother Alex, Emily had always been closer to Samantha and initially blamed me for the breakdown of our relationship. Her visit caught me off guard, and I was wary at first. But Emily had come to apologize and share some information that shed new light on Samantha's behavior. Emily revealed that Samantha had been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, BPD, in her early 20s but had stopped treatment shortly after, believing she could manage it on her own. This explained a lot of Samantha's extreme emotions and behaviors, but it didn't excuse them. Emily also shared that their parents had always downplayed Samantha's issues, which contributed to her not getting the help she needed. This information left me with mixed feelings. On one hand, it helped me understand Samantha's actions better, providing some context for her behavior. On the other hand, it reinforced my decision to end the relationship. I realized that I couldn't be responsible for Samantha's mental health, and staying with her out of guilt or obligation would only harm us both in the long run. On a more positive note, my time away allowed me to reconnect with an old high school friend, Olivia. We hadn't spoken much since graduation, but running into her at a local coffee shop led to us catching up. Olivia had gone through a similar experience with an emotionally abusive ex-boyfriend, and talking to her was incredibly cathartic. We've been keeping in touch since I returned to the city, and I appreciate having someone who truly understands what I've been through. As for my career, I returned to work with a renewed focus and energy. The time away had given me perspective on what I really wanted from my job and my life. The promotion my boss had hinted at came through, and I'm now leading my own team on a new project. It's challenging but exciting, and it's given me something positive to focus on. There are days when the stress gets to me, but I'm learning to manage it in healthier ways. I've also started volunteering at a local animal shelter on weekends. It started as a way to fill my time and avoid sitting at home alone with my thoughts, but it's become so much more than that. Working with the animals has been incredibly therapeutic. There's something about the unconditional love of a dog or cat that helps heal the soul. It's helped me regain some of the compassion and trust that I felt I had lost during my relationship with Samantha. While things are generally looking up, I still have moments of doubt and anxiety. Sometimes, I'll catch myself falling into old patterns, worrying about how my actions might upset someone or feeling guilty for putting my needs first. I'm working on setting healthy boundaries in all my relationships and learning to trust my instincts again. It's a process, and some days are harder than others, but I'm committed to my healing journey. Thank you all for your continued support. Your kind words and advice have been a lifeline during this difficult time. I'll update again if there are any significant developments. Update 3: It's been a year since my original post, and I wanted to give you all a final update on my situation. So much has changed, and I'm in a much better place now, both mentally and emotionally. The biggest news is that Samantha has finally stopped trying to contact me. About 3 months ago, I received a letter from her, vetted by my lawyer first. In it, she apologized for her behavior during our relationship and afterward. She explained that she had re-entered therapy and was taking medication to manage her BPD. While I appreciated her apology, I chose not to respond. I wish her well, but I know that maintaining any form of contact would not be healthy for either of us. On the personal front, my friendship with Olivia has grown into something more. We started dating about 4 months ago, and it's been a completely different experience from my relationship with Samantha. Olivia is patient, understanding, and respectful of my boundaries. She encourages me to maintain my friendships and pursue my interests, and she has her own full life outside of our relationship. It's refreshing to be with someone who supports my growth rather than trying to control me. My relationship with my family and friends has also strengthened. I've made a conscious effort to be more open with them about my feelings and experiences, and their support has been invaluable. My sister Lisa and I have become especially close, and we now have a weekly video chat to catch up, no matter how busy life gets. Professionally, I'm thriving in my new role at work. The project I'm leading is going well, and I've received recognition from upper management for my contributions. I feel confident and capable in a way I haven't in years. My volunteer work at the animal shelter has become an important part of my life. I've even adopted a rescue dog, Max, who has become my loyal companion. Caring for him has helped me learn to trust again and has brought so much joy into my life. Reflecting on the past year, I'm amazed at how far I've come. There are still moments when I struggle with self-doubt or anxiety, but they're becoming less frequent. I've learned to recognize the signs of a healthy relationship and to value myself enough to walk away from situations that don't serve me. To anyone who might be in a similar situation to where I was a year ago, I want to say, it gets better. It's not easy, and it takes time, but you have the strength within you to reclaim your life. Don't be afraid to reach out for help, whether it's to friends, family, or professionals. You deserve to be in a relationship that uplifts you, not one that tears you down. Thank you all for being a part of my journey. Your support and advice have been a crucial part of my healing process. While this will be my last update, I'll carry the lessons I've learned with me forever. Here's to healthier, happier futures for all of us.